Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating, kind of little-known story. It's about a spiritual crisis back in the 1970s and one rabbi's surprisingly modern solution. All right, here's what we've got on tap. We're going to look at the spiritual plague from the 70s. Then we'll peel back the curtain on Transcendental Meditation. From there, we'll dig into a secret memo from the Rebbe, see how science kind of backed them up, and finally, we'll break down what this kosher meditation thing is all about. Let's get into it.
So to really get what the Rebbe was so concerned about, you got to picture the 1970s. Eastern spirituality was just exploding across America, and right at the front of that wave was a group called Transcendental Meditation, or TM for short. Okay, now check this out, because this is wild. At the time, Jewish people were, maybe 2% of the U.S. population, but they made up a massive 30 to 40% of all the people joining these Eastern meditation movements. I mean, that's a huge overrepresentation. So you can see why Jewish leaders were starting to get really, really concerned.
So you're probably asking, what's the big deal? It's just meditation, right? Well, according to a former TM teacher, Rabbi Ari Siegel, what they told you on the outside was, it was a world away from what was actually happening on the inside.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. When you joined, they'd give you this secret mantra, and they'd say, oh, it's just a meaningless sound. Don't worry about it. It's just to help you relax. But it wasn't. Not even close. The deception, it actually went deeper. As people got more advanced in the practice, they were given little additions to their mantra. But here's the kicker. They were never told what these new words actually meant.
So you had thousands of people meditating for hours every day, repeating a phrase at the deepest, most subtle level of their mind. And what were they saying? They were unknowingly saying, I bow down, to a Hindu god.
And it wasn't just the mantra. The initiation ceremony itself was a huge red flag. It was presented as this simple thank you ceremony, but it was actually a full-blown Hindu worship ritual. You had an altar, a picture of the guru, offerings of fruit and flowers. And because the new members had to bring those offerings themselves, they weren't just watching, they were active participants in the worship. You see, according to people who were on the inside, the whole point of this ceremony was to spiritually bind the person to the guru. So this wasn't just a self-help techniques to help you chill out. This was something much, much deeper, all hidden behind that marketing. For Rabbi Siegel, the guy we mentioned earlier, his personal turning point came from this really strange, almost unbelievable encounter. So as a young man, he took 32 mezuzahs from his home to a visiting mystic to have them checked. The mystic is going through them one by one, gets to the 11th one, looks at it, and just says, Transcendental Meditation. Just like that. Siegel hadn't told him a single thing about his life. The mystic told him his soul was being confused and that he had to make a choice. And that was it. That was the last time Rabbi Siegel ever meditated with TM. He walked away and never looked back. Okay, so that's the backdrop, and all of this brings us to the Rebbe's response. He saw this spiritual danger, for sure, but he was also incredibly pragmatic. He understood that people weren't just joining these groups for no reason. They were genuinely stressed out and looking for relief, and his solution was pretty radical. And this wasn't a new thought for him either. I mean, way back in 1962, he was already asking people to look into kosher alternatives. But the crisis of the 70s, with so many people getting involved, that's what pushed him to send out this confidential memo to a very specific group of people, dozens of mental health professionals. And in this memo, he laid it all out. The problem? He said these Eastern meditations had whispers of idolatry. The solution? He urged them to develop and promote a totally parve or neutral meditation technique. The goal was to give people a safe alternative for stress relief, a way to pull them back from these cult-like groups. But, and this is a really important but, he warned that this was a tool, like medicine, for the highly stressed. It was not meant to replace traditional Jewish prayer or hitbonenet.
Now here's where the story takes an amazing turn. At almost the exact same time the Rebbe is writing this secret memo, a researcher at Harvard is scientifically proving that the Rebbe's whole idea was not only possible, but actually worked.
This researcher, Dr. Herbert Benson, he discovered something he called the relaxation response. You know the fight or flight response, right? Well, this is its physiological opposite. It's a state of really deep rest, but where you're still completely mentally alert. It's basically our body's built-in antidote to stress.
And here was Benson's massive breakthrough. He found that you did not need a secret mantra with a hidden meaning. His research showed that just repeating a simple, neutral word, like the word one, produced the exact same deep state of rest. The mantra itself didn't matter, it was the act of repetition.
And this wasn't just some lab theory. It had huge real-world effects. A Harvard study showed that people practicing this simple relaxation response actually reduced their doctor visits, tests, and procedures, their overall medical care, by 43% in just 1 year. That's incredible.
Okay, so this all brings us back to our main question. What is kosher meditation? And you know what? It's probably a lot simpler than you're imagining.
It's basically that Harvard technique. It's meditation stripped of all the ritual, all the religious baggage, all the idolatry. You just pick a neutral focus word, sit quietly, and gently repeat it in your mind. When your mind wanders, which it will, you just notice it and gently come back to the word. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's a tool to trigger your body's own natural relaxation response.
And this really hammers home the Rebbe's crucial distinction. He saw this neutral, secular meditation as a prescription, like medicine, for people who were genuinely sick with stress. But for someone who was spiritually healthy and looking for connection and growth, for that, the path was, and always is, traditional Jewish contemplative prayer.
So when you look back at this whole story, what do you see? You see a hidden danger that was pulling people away. You see an ancient faith responding not with just a ban, but with a really pragmatic solution. And then you see modern science coming along and completely validating that approach. It's this incredible intersection of faith, science, and that timeless human need for a little bit of inner peace.
And it really leaves us with a big question for today, right? In our own search for calm in this crazy world, when we're looking for ways to quiet our minds, how much does the origin of our practice actually matter compared to what we intend for it to be?